Dr. Dolly Mishra, I think, just said hi to you on the chat. So she's here from the Internal Security School. And there are a number of others who are here, especially, we in this school, we have a global representation because of these strategic languages. So, we have a good representation of members from Taiwan, from Tibet, who have settled here. And we have a number of students who join in. So the idea is to try and create a robust, sort of platform where everyone gets an opportunity. Absolutely. And I think we are slowly succeeding in that.
No. I've seen.
This is not about, this is not about one school at all. That was not the idea. This was about just creating an intellectual platform where people can come together and actually have a nice, good discussion. Of course, there is a lot of them happening, but we thought getting people like you, Jaideep, would actually make the difference.
No, thank you so much for your kindness. Really, Venkat. This is.
Thank you.
I'm really privileged.
Thank you, sir. So I think as people join in, I'll hand it over, please, Dr. Shraddha. I think you should go ahead. Thank you, Jaideep.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. On behalf of School of International Cooperation, Security and Strategic Languages, I would like to welcome you all to the 15th talk under its flagship lecture series, Lavad Confab on National Security. So for those who are new to the audience, I would like to briefly state about what the Confab is. So the conversation in this lecture series largely revolve around issues relevant to the major focus area of the school, that is international relations and national security, political economy, and strategic languages. So this lecture series endeavors to bring eminent personalities, including policymakers in government and opinion influencers from wide strategic community to provide a varied perspective, thereby adding to the existing subject. The Confab also act as a platform for students from different areas of specialization to interact with one another, thereby enabling an interdisciplinary inquiry into research at the university. So we have about 14 rounds, with this being 15th on the line. Among our speakers, we have had distinguished practitioners who have been serving at the highest level of the government, including our current Finance Secretary, Dr. Somnathan, the current Sri Lankan Ambassador to India, Ambassador Moragoda, General Narsimhan, General Vinod Kandare, who spoke on comprehensive national security. And last week on 12th, we had Colonel Sanjay Kanawat, who shared his perspective on unraveling China through the years. So today we have among us a very eminent personality, as sir stated, Mr. Jaideep Saikia, who will be engaging the talk on security situation in the Northeast and strategic encirclement. Now, to briefly introduce the speaker, Mr. Jaideep Saikia is a conflict analyst and current fellow, West Point, USA. He is the author, editor of 16 books and over 36 peer-reviewed papers in international and national journals. He served the government of India and Assam in security advisorial capacities, including a stint in National Security Council Secretariat as an expert in the Northeast. Mr. Saikia was a member of Indian delegation for a track-2 dialogue with Bangladesh, China, and Myanmar, and has been an international visitor to the United States at the invitation of the US Department of State. To Pakistan in 1988 on a personal invitation of then President General Zia-ul Haq. He was a senior fellow in the Delhi-based think tank Vivekanand International Foundation and a frequent invitee to top think tanks and government agencies. Sir has lectured in various defense colleges and institutions both in India and abroad, including Rand Corporation, US Institute of Peace, Potomac Institute for Policy Studies, to mention few. He was a member of the expert group for a mandated United Nations agencies project on challenges to peace building and has received the Governor of Assam Scroll of Honor in 1999 for commendable work for countering insurgency in Assam, citation of appreciation, and GOC's appreciation from 3rd and 4th Corps in 2021 for invaluable and selfless contribution to the nation's security, and for stimulating work on widespread spectrum of evolving security paradigm, and Achiever 2020 Award for Outstanding Contribution to National Security. With this very brief but voluminous introduction, I, on behalf of the school and the university, would warmly like to welcome you, sir, and I request that you take over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shraddha. I'm extremely privileged this morning to be amongst you, particularly the students, faculty, and the other guests of the Rashtriya Raksha University. I will be, in the course of the next 45 odd minutes, give you an overview of the security situation in the Northeast and also the strategic encirclement that sort of engenders the security matrix. I'm going to do that by way of a PowerPoint presentation that I have specially prepared for the RRU. I'm going to share that now. This is a dedicated presentation for the Raksha University, and as has been informed, it is about the Northeast and the strategic encirclement. I'm certain that most of you do know about the Northeast, but just to give you a cartographical idea about where it is and how far it is from Delhi, making it as perhaps arithmetically a very isolated, expanse, perhaps the only expanse in the entire South Asia to be so isolated and strategically encircled. I'll give you a bird's eye view of the region and talk about its strategic encirclement. We have China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal placed little further afield, as I said, making us perhaps one of the most strategically encircled expanse in the whole of South Asia. We're connected to the mainland India by just 22-kilometer long corridor, which is also known as the Siliguri or the chicken snake corridor. And 98% of our borders are with international countries, as I've said, China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Nepal. So let me after having given you this brief overview, geographically begin at the beginning and end at the end. I will naturally be talking only about security in the traditional sense of the term. So if there are other aspects which you would like to ask me during the Q&A, I'll be more than happy to answer. So that's strategic encirclement for you. So let me begin in the beginning and say, when was the first shot as far as insurgency was fired? It was by this man, Angami Zapu Fizo, also referred to as the father of Northeast insurgency. With the coming of independence, the present-day Nagaland state or the people of Nagaland.
I'm sorry. Are you playing the presentation? Because for some reason, I'm not able to at least see this other than the first slide.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I think because we missed the other slides also. I'm sorry.
Can you see this? Can you see this one?
Yeah. Now we can see this. Now we can see it.
So just tell me again, okay, if I'm expanding it. Is it okay?
Yeah, this is fine. I think this is okay. But I think we missed the second, third. I don't know whether you had a couple of slides.
Just, I showed you a few maps.
Okay.
Can you see this one?
Right now we're just seeing the photo of the Northeast insurgency father of Northeast. That's the slide we are seeing.
Okay. Anyway, I'll continue that. Maybe something. You can see this one, right, Venkat?
Yeah, we are able to see this slide.
Okay, fine. So, as I was saying, that he sent his first batch of people, stop me where if you can't see, through Myanmar to places in China, in Yunnan, way back in 1967. So I wanted to give you some rare snapshots of the terrain by which they traversed the 97-day trek all the way to Yunnan. And one of the rare photographs which is taken in the Great Wall of China of the NSC and IM now was Isaac Kisisu, who is no more, but his name continues to be there, and of course Muiva, who is the General Secretary of the NSA and IM. So they were taken to then Peking, and this photograph shows them in the Great Wall of China in 1968. NSC and IM since then has completed 24 years of ceasefire. In 1997, the ceasefire took place, but over 90 rounds of talk have taken place without much headway. As a matter of fact, some of the talks have actually been stymied in recent times. Am I having a problem there visually? Venkat?
Yes, yes. You know, for some reason, I don't know why the PowerPoint is not moving forward, Jaideep. You want to take a minute to just set that right? Because I think, okay, now it's moving.
I don't know why.
So we moved from, I think, the 5th or the 4th slide to the 8th slide.
Can you see it moving now?
No, no, it's just on slide number 8.
Jesus Christ.
No worries, if you can just take a minute, maybe, or if you think there is a problem on your end and you want to send that across to us, we can play it for you.
Okay.
Jay sir, I wanted to check if my voice is audible to you, sir.
Yes, your voice is audible to me.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so I think General Mistry is just mentioning that it's, I think, on edit mode. That could be one of the reasons, Jaideep.
What mode is that?
Maybe you'll have to get off that compatibility mode, or, you know.
Okay, just give me some time. I'm so sorry about this.
No problem. No problem. Yeah, so I think you just need to change that to slideshow mode. You can change it to slideshow mode. Jaideep, if you're able to hear. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. I think Jaideep is just trying to settle back in. Meanwhile, of course, I once again welcome General Mistry, Director of the Military School at RRU. Professor Gaur is here, from a Director from the Forensic School. Welcome, sir. Please bear with us for a few minutes, and then I think Jaideep will be back.
So you need to unmute your device, sir.
Jaideep, I think you need to unmute yourself. And
Yeah, I have unmuted.
And if you can click on the share button.
Yeah, I did that.
And then just click on the PowerPoint.
Yeah, can you do that? Can you see now the thing?
Yes, yes. And if you could just go down a slide, then we'll know that it's moving.
Okay. Is it?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not moving.
Is it moving?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, for some reason I can't expand it, so I'll show it in this board, okay?
Sure.
All right, so as I was saying quickly, I'm sorry, I lost about 5 minutes there. So Northeast is far away from Delhi in that sense. And as I was telling you, the strategic encirclement endears the Northeast to an expanse which is sort of surrounded by 5 countries: China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal, making us perhaps the only expanse in South Asia. Jesus Christ. There's something wrong, Dr. Venkat. Is it all right if I give you a speech instead? Hello?
Sure, sir.
Sorry, Jaydeep, I was just taking a.
I'm sorry, I don't think there's something wrong, perhaps at this end or connectivity.
So there are two options. One, of course, is you could do away with the PowerPoint.
Yeah, and give you a speech, yeah.
The second is you just send it to me if it is okay for you to send it.
Yeah, it's okay for me, but point is that I'm just looking at the time. It's already, and for some reason.
No, don't worry about the time. You can take some extra time. That's absolutely no problem.
Yeah, but for some reason, I think it's got hung. I don't know. It's a brand new thing.
No, not a problem. What I'm going to do, Jaydeep, is send
Okay,
you an email.
I'll just send it to you.
You have my email?
Yeah. Your email, yeah, I think so.
I'm just WhatsApping.
I don't know why. As a matter of fact, I tried this out with Colonel Sanjay this morning. Everything was working.
So I've just sent it to you. Jaydeep, I've just sent it across to you. So if you could just send it across, then maybe I can play it for you and you could stop sharing. So, Shraddha, I don't know whether you would want to add in some of your thoughts on the topic, because obviously, I think coming from that region, you may have your point of view. So maybe just provide maybe a couple of points on the context of why this particular talk is important.
Sir,
Yeah.
right, sir. So as a national security institution, I have always mentioned that, instead of just focusing on the external factor, we should also pay attention to the internal, which is equally important when it comes to the holistic security approach. So coming from Northeast, obviously, a lot of thing has changed as of now, but we still feel that there is still a lot that we need to do in order to integrate the nation. For instance, this concept, when we say India, it is mainland India. So even sir mentioned. So I think it's very important as of now for us to do away with the term mainland. And so I think this is a very interesting talk. I think it's important for us to now understand the importance of the reason as such. And for most of the confab or the lecture series we've had, it's mostly been relating to the international factors. Like we've talked a lot about China, we've talked a lot about USA and our relationship with the respective nations. But I think for the first time in our lecture series, we are talking about this internal security factor. I think that will really add a lot to the discourse that we have been, or the understanding or the subject domain we've been trying to increase. So I think this will be a very interesting perspective. That is it from me. And I also have Anurup Kaushik, who is also from Assam. So this is what I feel, that Northeast as a region should be integrated, and like people should have more broader understanding. So Anurup, if you also would like to add something to it.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I feel that when this conflict is still remaining, when this conflict still persists, the development cannot occur in that place. And when development happens, then of course this conflict won't be around. So now currently only two factions, the NSCN and is some sporadic events by Ulfa is going on. So rest of the northeast is in peace. In Manipur, there are incidents of other groups as well. So I think at present the situation has changed. So now what we need to know, or what we need to learn, is how to make it better. Like from now onwards, it's still there are things which needs to be done, and how can we make that happen? So we need to learn this, I feel, ma'am.
And I think this is a very interesting platform because we have audience from all over. And apart from the students of international relations, we also have students from the other department. So exchanging ideas on this and deliberating more on it definitely will increase our knowledge about the region as well as the subject matter.
Yeah, thank you. I think Shraddha and Anurup, we also have some of the others who are from the region. I can see, for example, Pradyumna, who's here, who's from that region. General Mistry, sir, I know you are here, and Jaideep is just attempting to, the file is quite heavy, so I think he's attempting to send it across. And if that doesn't succeed, then we will just go with a verbal conversation. So Jaideep can make his comments, and then maybe we can open it up for more interactions. Mistry, sir, would you, this is an opportunity for us to hear you. If you would like to, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Venkat, what I would like to say is we tend to broadband Northeast as one, use one common entity. There are a lot of variations in different states. There are a lot of local factors, languages, people, culture. There's a lot of diversity. And because of our lack of knowledge about Northeast and the people there, we tend to broad-base it and broadband the whole thing, which does not give us adequate understanding of the nuances of the issues involved. So I think we need to develop more knowledge. And this isolation, is a fact of life. As I think Jaideep was trying to explain the narrow linkage. There is an emotional isolation, which is aggravated because of the geographical isolation. And of course, in their internal communications also, these states use that, the instrument of isolation and ability to cut off each other. Like between Nagaland and Manipur, it happens quite frequently. Between Assam and Manipur, it happens. So there is, if you take a long-term view, I think that the geographical connectivity has to be increased, has to be improved as a long-term measure.
Thank you, sir. So I think that's an interesting point. I think, Shraddha had mentioned about the focus on some of the external dimensions. I don't think we can, looking at the kind of geographies the program focuses upon, it's impossible for us to look at Pakistan without looking at the internal implications in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, for example. So in that sense, the Northeast, because of it being also, one of course is the fact that you have to develop the region since it's an integral part of India. The second, of course, is it's a gateway to the Act East policy, and also reaching out to the Far East and the Southeast Asia region, the Indo-Pacific region. So I think that is another factor which also makes it important. Jaideep, I know you're back again and we are only filling in. Do you want to try that once again? I think you'll have to unmute yourself, Jaideep.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, extremely sorry about this, but maybe I'll have to sort of, just either have an interaction with you or something of that sort, I'll try to tell you the thing separately at the time. I had a dedicated presentation for you, but that doesn't seem to be working at this point.
कैमरा इसी में ना, इसी में कैमरा में ना ऊपर जो कैमरा लिखा है, कैमरा ये नहीं सर, फिर कैमरा खराब हो गया, कैमरा नहीं खराब हुआ है।
Is it all right, Dr. Baker?
Yeah, can we please have can we please have the audience mute themselves, please? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Jaideep, I think I'll just let you decide. Have you sent it to me?
Yeah. Sorry.
Have you sent it to me?
No, it's not just, it's not. It's just
Okay, so let's just start.
I will send it to you eventually by Google, but it will take time, and I don't want the.
No, Jaideep, let's just start, please.
Audience. Okay, as I was saying, can you hear me now and see me at least?
Yes.
While sort of try to work on the time factor as well. As I was saying quickly that, we are arithmetically a far distant region, an expanse which is away from Delhi. And I tried to show in the beginning, of course it didn't work, the strategic encirclement by which the entire Northeast is sort of, covered. China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Bhutan and Nepal further afield, making us perhaps the only expanse in the entire South Asia to be so encircled. So when we talk about insurgency and security and at present times terrorism, we must understand that at least 50% of these aspects, the violence within the Northeast is perhaps as a result of extraneous circumstances. I mean, it's very difficult to quantify exact percentage of whatever this that the other, but most of the violence which has been perpetrated in the Northeast, as far as my research is concerned, in the last about quarter of a century, tells me that they have been actually perpetrated from near abroad. Earlier there was Bhutan, where the camps of the Alpha, the KLO and the NVB were there, but with the ouster of the camps with the Royal Bhutan Army operation in 2003 December, that safe haven was neutralized. They moved to Bangladesh, and now, since we have a friendly ally and a government in Bangladesh by way of Sheikh Hasina's Awami League, they have moved to Myanmar. Now, I had some very interesting photographs. Unfortunately, it's one of the first times I've really faced this particular problem. But you see, if you were to hypothetically make Myanmar disappear at this point of time, which is really the last bastion of the insurgent stroke terrorist groups of the Indian insurgents, I think 95% of the problem would be solved. Yes, there have been indoctrination, arms, training, and of course, conduit from China, from Yunnan. But if there weren't the so-called liberated zones in Myanmar, I don't think the thoroughfare or the corridor would have allowed these to actually enter Northeast. So at this point of time, Myanmar actually is a crucial linchpin. It's very interesting because we talk about the Act East policy in the same breath, and we want Myanmar to be the crucial linchpin for Northeast to the tiger economies of Southeast Asia. But the fact of the matter is, on the other hand, it is also the launching detachment of PAD for attacks against the Indian security forces and also civilian population, as we have seen. Having said that, it's important to understand that these forces have taken place in the Northeast. It's not as if New Delhi has been completely blind to the concerns of the Northeast. And to that end, I think they have made few very robust beginnings, starting off with I think the most celebrated peace process with the Mizo National Front. You have the legendary Lallinga's Lieutenant Zorampanga sitting in the Chief Minister's chair in Aizawl at this point in time. He was an insurgent leader. He was helped by China and then East Pakistan, but now he is a constitutional authority in the position of the state. So, that was a success story. But as far as the Naga's peace process, which I wanted to deal with in my power presentation, unfortunately, after the ceasefire of 1997, 25 years have passed since then, things have been sort of gone on in fits and starts. And I must sort of allude to the fact that the way New Delhi sort of perceives the Northeast and governs the Northeast primarily is what I would say is the Ortelian stratagem of Sam, Dam, Dandave. For those of you who are new to this concept, Sam simply means, cajolement. Dam is monetary inducement. Dand is, of course, punitive action, and Bay. So a combination of these four have actually been used by New Delhi in order to quell rebellion or unrest and insurgency in the region. We saw that in the case of Mizo National Front. Lal Degar came back and became the chief executive of the state. And we have seen that in the case of the Nagas, in the sense of the word Bhed I use, they have been factionalized to an extent where now it is very difficult to sort of actually pinpoint which is the group that we really want to talk to. As a matter of fact, just about a week ago, there have been murmurings that the new interlocutor, A.K. Mishra, is going to talk with the NNPG and not with the NSCN-IM, which is the most formidable of group in the Northeast, in Nagaland in that sense. So that would not augur very well, because that would make the peace process not very comprehensive, and it would again hark back to the failure of the Shillong Accord in 1975, which, as you know, gave rise to the NSCN in the first place, after the government of India went into an accord with the NNC, the Naga National Council. In 2015, there was a framework agreement, and which people thought was a new beginning. But now that time has passed, on hindsight, it can be seen that actually it was a riddle wrapped up in some sort of an enigma. We didn't really know much about it. Arun Ravi, who was the chairman of the JIC and interlocutor for talks with Nagaland, was the architect for this framework agreement. But the problem with the framework agreement is because it was shrouded in so much of secrecy that, spoilers aplenty started acting, and naturally, for some reason or the other, which I don't want to go into, because people do blame Mr. Arun Ravi for having made some uncalled for remarks against the NSA-NIM, which led to his removal from both interlocutorship and the governor's position that he was granted in of Nagaland. And now the interlocutor in A.K. Mishra, and things are moving ahead in the right direction, one hopes. Although, as I said, it is the Naga people are divided house, and I think tribalism is the right word when you don't want to try to sort of characterize the Naga aspect, because the Nagas of Nagaland, for instance, the Owls, the Semas, the Angamis, do not consider the Nagas of Manipur primarily Tangkhul. And here I must underscore the fact that NSA-NIM has become synonymous with Tangkhul, because they are the brains, they are the people. Most of the important leaders are from the Tangkhul community. I have had the good fortune of having visited Manipur recently and have gone to Ukhrul and Sogdal, the village of Mulba. So the Nagas of Nagaland, present-day territory, do not consider the Tangkhuls of Manipur, who are looking for a greater Nagaland and to be included in the Great Nagaland, which is the avowed objective of the Nagas. But the fact of the matter is, I think the peace process is in for a long haul. So having said that, I think it's important for me really to understand that the father of all insurgency, the Nagas, have to be really solved in a comprehensive manner. I myself have actually talked about it in a webinar recently, that balkanization of states like Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, and Assam, where the NSCNI wants inclusion of these territories, cannot be done into, because I don't think the people of Assam, Manipur, and Arunachal Pradesh would agree to that. So the only way out is perhaps an autonomy plus in the hill districts of Manipur and Nagaland, which I call the autonomy plus. I can spell that out during the Q&A. But the fact of the matter is, suffice to say at this point in time, that unless you solve the Naga insurgency problem by way of something which is acceptable to both the parties, I mean, the three most important aspects are the flag, the constitution, and of course, the contested inclusion of territories in the other three states of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, and Manipur. Manipur particularly is important because Muiba, the General Secretary, is from Songdar, is from Ukhrul, which is in Manipur. And when I visited Ukhrul recently, for instance, I was told that he has not been allowed to visit his place since 1963 because the Manipur government and the Indian Army would not allow that. So as I was saying, unless you do something about the Naga insurgency, the rest of the insurgencies, in the words of Parish Porwa, are caught in a traffic jam. So they will not move forward. There have been interlocutors for the Alpha, the Kofi groups, the suspension operation groups, etc. But I don't think things will make any headway unless you solve the Naga peace process. Having said that, let me quickly move on to the other aspects like the strategic encirclement. I think after the humiliation of Galwan in 2020 and the fact that China now understands the if I were to use the word prowess of the Indian military in the eastern sector at least, which comprises the Arunachal Pradesh area of northeast, that militarily it cannot do anything. So it has, although I'm being very upfront right at the beginning that I do not have any proof. As a matter of fact, recently I gave a presentation in Delhi where I was asked to speak about Chinese help to the Indian insurgent groups. It is quite clear, as I was trying to show in the PowerPoint presentation, the way back in 1967, 5 Naga gangs went to Yunnan. Muiba himself went to the School of Diplomacy in Beijing. But during Tang Xiaoping's time, the export of revolution had stopped. But as I said, during after 2020 and the humiliation of Galwan, they have started a proxy war by actually sort of erecting umbrella organizations like the United National Liberation Front of West Southeast Asia and the Coordination Committee of Manipur, aiding them. So much to say, so much in the direction that actually Ministry of State Security of China allegedly are planning attacks against the Indian security forces for the Indian insurgent groups. So if you remember the Churachandpur attack of 14 November last year, when Colonel Biplab Tripathi and his innocent wife and 6-year-old son Abir were killed in cold blood in a place called Bihang in Churachandpur in Manipur. People say that. Sorry? Sorry?
That's just somebody in the audience who's switching on
All right.
their.
Okay, so that basically they've said that the Chinese had a hand in that as well. Now, Myanmar today is absolutely in a state of unrest. When I visited Moreh just a little over a month ago, I could actually, when I went to Moreh, the township, which would have been the roadhead for the Actis policy all the way to Mandalay and beyond. As you know, in 2014, when Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister, he gave a different, infused a different spirit to the Actis policy by calling it the Actis policy. But fact of the matter is, with the unrest in Myanmar, with civil unrest, I could actually, anecdotally speaking, and otherwise, really, were told that they were fighting just across Moreh in the town called Tamu. So there's no question of acting is actually going east in the present circumstances, and it seems to me that the civil war is actually getting a little more accentuated, and as a result, the Indian insurgent groups are getting more and more well entrenched in the Sagaing and the Chin state of Myanmar. They have camps, and very robust ones at that. And once I talked about the attack on the Colonel Biplab Tripathi and his forces in Churachandpur were done by informed camps, and so disciplined they are that I really feel that, despite the fact that I don't have any by way of evidence that the Chinese have entered the game, they have something called the Joint Fighting Force. I had a very elegant map which I took about a week to prepare, but unfortunately at this point in time I can't share it with you, and which is called a Southern Cluster, from where they're planning attacks some evidence to say that before the 50th of August this year, they could actually, bear the fangs, as it were, once again. And with the withdrawal of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act from certain areas of Northeast, primarily Manipur, I think which was a little premature. I think the hub of UG or underground activity has become more pronounced in some of these areas. Actually, by way of recommendation, I would have said that yes, a phased withdrawal was called for. And what happened in Oting were the Konyak people when the Assam Rifles and sundry other units of the Indian Army killed about 13 Konyak tribals in cold blood was perhaps the incident which precipitated the withdrawal of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act from various places. But the fact of the matter is, it was premature, and the army should have been given some more time to sort of, balance its movements out. Because at this point of time, it was just simply said that 1st of April, it has to be, repealed and no less. So, I don't think, the knee-jerk reaction or manner in which government of India is trying to sort of tackle the Northeast is perhaps is done in a very comprehensive manner. It has to be a little more calibrated to that end. As I was saying, if you were to hypothetically make Myanmar disappear, then perhaps most of the problems would be solved. But again, I think there is a bit of ambivalence as far as BL is concerned. We have abstained in the United Nations General Assembly when we did not vote for or against the military takeover of 1st of April 2021. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think there is any forward diplomatic or intelligence engineering as far as NAPIDO is concerned, and leaving us absolutely nowhere, both in terms of economy, that is active policy, and of course security. Because I think the way I have recently, when I recently visited Manipur, I was quite aghast to see that they are very well entrenched there, and it's a possibility that they would strike the will. As a matter of fact, just about a week ago, the Alpha, which is started its recruitment drive after a brief lull during the COVID and before, have gone into a kind of offensive mood. They have assassinated two so-called alleged spies of the Assam police, which has actually again held for the peace talks with the Alpha Independent. As you know, that they're divided house. We have Alpha Pro Talk, which is inside Assam, but again, no talks headway in the talk. Why? Because what I had alluded to about the NSC and IM. You see, I think government of India is desperate to solve the problem with NSC and IM, but at the same time, is not sort of comprehending the fact that it has to be an all-inclusive affair. You cannot talk to one group and not alienate the others. So that is a problem. So a wire medium is to be found. So at this point of time, Alpha Independent, the PLA of Manipur, the UNLF, and sundry other groups have come together as one under perhaps the shepherding of the Chinese Ministry of State Security. And in the days to come, you will see a more violent Northeast. That is as far as the ethnic insurgency is concerned. The other quick concern is, of course, I'm not a communal person, but the fact of the matter, I cannot help use the word Islamist terror. You see, the people of Assam, the Muslims of Assam are very much, in fact, I don't wear patriotism on my sleeve, but the fact of the matter is, I think some of the Assamese Muslims are far more patriotic than I am. They're more Indian than I am. But the alien agenda which has come upon Assam recently, a month ago, we've had the arrest of 12 Al-Qaeda affiliated Ansarullah Maghlab team. Again, because Bangladesh abuts us so closely. You see, there has been intense pressure by Sheikh Hasina, and as a result of which, because of the porosity of the border, these people have come into places like Barpeta, Dhubri, and the demographic jungles of Lower Assam, and an alert Assam police and the intelligence here have been able to nab them. But I can tell you for certain that radicalization in Assam is on the rise, and the matter of concern is that radicalization is not happening in the lower strata, because the demographic invasion which Assam has been facing for the last over since 1901 is basically economic migrant or perhaps climate migration. But at this point of time, radicalization is happening with the educated lot. Now that is very interesting and a matter of concern. So with social media, with the IT aspects moving in a very formidable way, you would have people getting radicalized. Of course, I think it will take another about a year for this whole aspect to sort of actually manifest itself. Here I must tell you that, for instance, Gujarat, where you all are sitting, the Muslim population, if I remember correctly, would be 9.22 or something, as opposed to Assam, which is 34.32% in 2011. The census was not, did not take place last year. So you can imagine what the the growth in population of the Muslims would be in Assam. Why am I giving the comparison between Assam and Gujarat? Is because in Gujarat they do not have the electoral strength or the mandate, but here I think it's important to understand that they have it, and that is perhaps why they are not engaging the security forces or embarking on a civil war situation, but actually waiting for an electoral strength which is growing, as I said, and that is perhaps the objective of Nizam and Mustafa. And as I said, after the failure, and I'm using the word failure, of Operation Inherent Resolve and the ouster of the ICs from Iraq and Syria, and moving closer to home, to places like the Afpak region, and I've always felt that there was always a togetherness or a duality of agenda between the Al-Qaeda and the ISIS. These two have got together, and we know about the Waliya Hind, we know about the Al-Qaeda in the subcontinent, and we have seen that they're using the midpoint, which is Bangladesh, a crucial midpoint. Why I call it a crucial midpoint? Because if there were to be, say, a bombing in Bali, which took place at a nightclub in Bali, the pullback area would be Bangladesh. Similarly, if there were bombing in the mass transit system of Mumbai, for instance, once again, for Lashkar-e-Taiba or the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the midpoint would be Bangladesh. Bangladesh, in reality, is actually two. One which is devoted to the Bengali nationalistic, linguistic sentiments, despite the fact that they are all Muslims, but they are. That is what actually led to the severance of east wing of Pakistan from the west wing in the first place. And recently there was a controversy, and like we Asmis, we have, or in Punjab they have the Baisakh, we have the Bohag Bihu or the New Year, and the Muslim population of Bangladesh in numbers were wanting to take part in what they call the Poila Boishak, and you had the Bindi, which in Bengali actually is called the Teep, Echo Echo Papa, Tango Echo Echo Papa, TEEP. But the radicalized elements inside Bangladesh, which had got in after the the manner in which the Awami League was thrown out in 1975 after the assassination of Sheikh Mujib, have got back to Bangladesh, and Bangladesh at this point in time, its polity and population are divided. So in the time to come, I think there would be a civil war in Bangladesh as well. And we in India are making a mistake by putting our eggs in all in one basket, that is Sheikh Hasina. God forbid if something were to happen to her, we would have no sustenance really. We were the ones who helped liberate Bangladesh. But at this point of time, and I can be very candid with you, when I visited Bangladesh in 2016, no less a person than the international advisor to Sheikh Hasina told me, Mr. Saikia, we need to create an opposition. We cannot have this, because otherwise everybody they're out in the streets, and the result, the radical elements are backed by the transformative movement which Islam is passing through, the global Salafi, intent which Islam is passing through. Al Qaeda and ISIS naturally are alien to the region, but with the propagation of the Al Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent, things have gone awry. And the arrest of the Ansarullah Bangla team, which is affiliated to the Al Qaeda in recent times, just a sort of a tip of the iceberg as far as Assam is concerned. In the days to come, you will see radicalization happening, and how it's going to manifest itself probably in a violent manner. As I said, probably the timeline which I have is perhaps May 2023. I mean, don't ask me how I arrived at it, but the fact of the matter is, I have been researching on this aspect for quite some time. I've written a book on the Islamist militancy in Northeast India when I was in the United States, and the signs, I think, are quite ominous at this point of time. Having said that, I think the way we can control or contain this particular menace of Islamist terror, if I were to say, is because as we Muslims are, as I said, perhaps more patriotic than I am, we must psychologically segregate them from the ill effects of this alien agenda. How we quarantine them, the state must arrive at a proper comprehensive policy. Number two, I think it is important to also co-opt them into the battle against this alien agenda. For instance, as an advisor to the government of Assam, to the Assam intelligence, I have been trying to propagate the fact that we need to use these people, and we have been successfully using people like Nahida Freen, the famous singer who stole the show in the national stage by her songs, etc., and made her sing against the ISIS and the alien agenda. We also got people to go from mosque to mosque and signature campaigns against the agenda. But unfortunately, I think we are against the time, and I can only just say what the Taliban said to the United States before it was retreating from Afghanistan. It very lyrically said, "You have the watches, we have the time." So I think, really, it's as simple as that. Ethnic insurgency, just to wrap up, I would say we have to find a comprehensive solution for the Naga insurgency. At this point of time, things are not right. We had an ignominious ouster, if I may use the word, or a removal of Mr. R.N. Ravi for no reason at all. The framework agreement, if it was made public at that point of time, things would have been all right. But for some reason, perhaps because, and this is, I wanted to actually make you hear what Mr. G.K. Pillai told me in the PowerPoint presentation. He said that they simply wanted Isaac Chisisu's name or signature on the document because he was critically ill and he passed away soon after, to make the NSA look like as if it's a all-inclusive party, which is just not a tranquil party. So that was one aspect. So it was gone into a hurry. I think, it's important to understand that these processes are best done in camera, in the sense like, once you make things public, and there are a lot of, spoilers are plenty to throw in the spanner, and that's exactly what happened. And the fact that Mr. R.N. Ravi was also made the governor sort of clashed with his interest as an interlocutor, and naturally the advantage has gone to the NSA as a result. At this point of time, I think people, for some reason or the other, and there are debate plenty about this, waiting for the exit of Mr. Muiba. No, that's not a very realistic approach, because why not try to solve the problem while he is there? We have not, and I can assure you, I don't think our agencies have actually done a proper psychoprofiling of the second round of leadership of the NSA, who will take over from him after he exits the scene. So there are people like V.S. Atem, Anthony Shimbre, Punting Shimbre, etc., who would perhaps be more belligerent than him As a matter of fact, after the ceasefire of 1997, Anthony Shimre, who is now the political commissar of the NSNIM, he was arrested by very well-engineered snatch operation from Nepal and made as if he was arrested in Patna railway station. He was actually trying to conduct arms from a private Chinese company. So you see, these are the people who are the next generation of interlocutors and government of India would have to talk to. So it's not as if the peace dividend has not paid off, it has paid off. But you must understand that now the Oking or the mobile headquarters, which was away in the jungle prior to 1997, have come decisively inside Northeast, and back-to-back designated camps all the way from, say, Camp Hebron to Kokrajhar in Assam. You know, there could be a coalition of the willing, as I always put it. What if? And everything is intact. The training is continuing, their arms are intact, there is flouting of the ceasefire provisions, they can march from Camp A to B, they conceal the weapons, extortion is continuing without let and hindrance. They're allowed to have voluntary collection of money, because the 7,000 stipend which the government of India is giving to every cadre is not something which they are looking for. They are naturally into a bigger game as far as the money. In fact, actually, I had a slide which says that the budget for the unofficial budget for the was 620 crores for 2019-20. That was the last I was able to sort of ferret out. But the fact of the matter is, we must, for some reason or the other, with the principle of charity and otherwise, make certain that the Naga peace process is somehow back on the rails. The ouster of RNRV has created a vacuum, but now we have a person in AK Mishra, as I said, and there have been initial parleys, and yet to be seen as to how things move in the right direction. Is only after that the Alpha, Protoc, and other groups will fall in line. But at the same time, I must sort of caution the fact that there are elite insurgent groups across in the now absolutely the killing fields of Myanmar, as I would say, where the People's Defense Forces are actually battling the Myanmarese army in a quite a manner which doesn't augur well for both Myanmar and India. Why? Because the valley-based insurgent groups like the UNLF, the PLM Manipur have got into an agreement with the Myanmarese army, whether it is out of coercion or otherwise. Earlier, there were attacks like Operation Sunrise 1 and 2, which sort of destroyed the camps in Taka, which is the west of the Chinwin. But now they have got into an agreement with the Myanmarese army. So we have lost that advantage as well. We cannot tell Nepido that please act against our insurgent groups. So in other words, I am being very candid when I say that we do not have a neighborhood first policy, whether it is about Myanmar, whether it is about Bangladesh. Bhutan, of course, is a friend and ally, but yet you must understand that camps of the Alpha, the NDFB, and the KNO are billeted there for closer to, I would say, 11 years before they were actually ousted by the Royal Bhutan Army with our help. So the security matrix of the Northeast really at this point of time, which was showing a decline as far as violence level is concerned, is now in a bit of a uneasy peace sort of a mode. And as we come closer to 15th of August, the D-Day for most insurgent groups to sort of flex the muscle and announce the presence, we might see a renewed violence in the region, primarily Manipur and in Assam, Upper Assam, and it is naturally because of the inimical aspects. There is certainly a Chinese hand, but I myself, as advisor security to the government of Assam, have interrogated ISI people who have been arrested in the heart of Guwahati, but I have never been able to catch hold of. I don't think the authorities have been able to catch hold of the Chinese agent. So they're very careful as far as the footprints are concerned. But at the same time, Having been a part of the track to dialogue with China, Myanmar, and Bangladesh, I know the Chinese official Beijing would not be, turning its head away from what's happening in Iran and other places. There are arms coming into through the land borders and through the sea routes, etc. So, but it's very difficult at this point of time. And I have spoken to some of your previous speakers, including General Narasimhan, about this before I was preparing for this presentation. Even he, who is one of perhaps the most important experts on China, says we really do not have any proof to actually point a finger at official Beijing. So I'm sorry, this has been a bit of a game changer as far as my presentation is concerned. I have to sort of quickly talk about this, and I'll be really happy to. I think I've taken about 35 minutes of giving you an extemporary, by way of whatever I think were the main points. But I'll be very happy to sort of answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. It is indeed a very important topic that you discussed, and something which, if I can add, has mostly been neglected. Also, I would like to add what General Mistry stated. So he stated that when we see Northeast as a region, we have the habit of putting it in a cluster. And as correctly stated by him, all the states are independent, and like independent as in like they are unique in their own right. And the ambiguity when it comes to mainland and the Northeast, I don't think it just ends there. So, for example, I come from the state of Sikkim, which, when, if I can use the word mainland again, sees it as a part of Northeast. But again, when we look at the cluster, we Sikkim Northeast doesn't seem see Sikkim as part of it. They say like seven sister plus one. So I think right now, as of now, like it is very important for us to see the nation in a holistic manner rather than just bifurcating it according to the reason. So it's a very interesting talk indeed. But I'm sure like there are a lot of questions and deliberations to be done. So without taking any further time, I would like to open the session for questions, opinion, and deliberation. Questions can be asked directly or can be put in the chat box. But my request is to please keep your questions brief. Any questions? Okay, all right, Anirudh.
Yes, sir.
Please
Thank you,
go
sir.
ahead.
Thank you, sir, for the lecture. Sir, I have two questions. So my first question is...
Anirudh, please, just Shraddha, please ask everyone to introduce themselves before so Jaideep knows who is addressing.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So my name is Anurup Kaushik. I am pursuing my Master's in International Relations, Security and Strategic Language from the School of International Cooperation, Security and Strategic Languages. So my first question is, how does the NSCN maintains its legitimacy? Like yesterday also, there was an incident between the Assam Rifles and the NSCN where they seized some Erica nuts, Burmese Erica nuts. The NSCN was giving interview in public news channels, and I could see that even the youths were supporting in their favor, like in the NSCN ceasefire's favor. And my the question is, how do they maintain the legitimacy among the public? And my second question is, why do we see in recent time there is a resurgence of the recruitment process in ULFA? And we can even see people from well-to-do families and even lower Assam joining this groups. So why now they're coming more into it? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Anurup Kaushik. I'll answer your second question first. I think the recruitment figure is slightly hyped up. The way the Alpha says that, thousands are joining, that's not the case. At the most, I think about 150, 170 people have gone. And you must also remember that there have been desertions, and the two persons who were killed, I think on the 7th of this month, were actually people who were trying to flee. They were, of course, executed because they were alleged to be police spies. So I think the Chief Minister of Assam has gone on record to say that people must think twice before they try and sort of try to join the Alpha. The primary reason for me at this point of time when recruitment actually had stopped. There were more surrenders, primarily because of the COVID and others, which the authorities took, you know, advantage of, is because really they have nothing much to do, and they have to see a little bit of a romance in going to places like Myanmar and being there for a while. They just take it as a kind of a sort of a junket that they can stay there for a few months, not having read the constitution of the Alpha, which talks about death penalty to deserters, or even, as we saw in the recent case, they were actually executed for being spies of the Assam police or the military intelligence. So I think if studentship is still a factor in me, I would say it is saying that, well, kuch nahi hai to let's go and see what it is like. Let's see what it is like to fire an AK-47, and let's see what it is. And there have been precedents. Some journalists have actually gone to Myanmar and they've come back and reported about these things. So I don't think the state has been very proactive as far as that is concerned, and been able to give a counter narrative to that. And Paresh Purva, despite the fact that I characterize him as absolutely a warlord who doesn't see any kind of role in a peace process, he has in the past, after the death of Velukulai, Prabhakaran wrote an opportunity piece in the Samya Pratidin, where he says he will go down if necessary, like Prabhakaran, fighting. But at this point of time, he is newly in Yunnan, chaperoned by the Chinese, almost a PR, mouthpiece for the Chinese. I mean, what has Tibet to do with Swadhin Assam or independent Assam or sovereign Assam? But they're talking about aspects like this. But the fact of the matter is that recruitment, first of all, it is inflated, the figure. But people who have gone there, I would say it is not because of any ideology. Now, any educated person, and you use the word educated, have seen through the false ideology of the Alpha. It began with a noble cause, I would say. It was a militant manifestation to the Assam Accord or the All Assam Students Union agitation against the demographic invasion from Bangladesh. But soon it petered out, and they found safe haven in Bangladesh itself. And we know that they don't have any ideology whatsoever, despite the fact they call themselves Marxist, sort of a Leninist political grouping. So if recruitment is happening at this point, then it is first because they see a romance in that. Some lumpen people have gone there. Some people who have had problems with the family and with the society have gone there, and because they have nothing else to do. As far as the NSC and IM's question is concerned, I think it is a very interesting question, and I can tell you for a fact that the Assam Rifles primarily, which is now controlling the entire Manipur, for instance, I think they are doing a wonderful job by trying to sort of instill the sense of Indianness among the Nagas. I have just recently for that, and I'm speaking very candidly here, and I have seen the forward engineering by which the army has reached out to the Nagas. They're doing the job despite the fact that they could be engaging the NSNI in Manipur, but the fact of the matter is that they're trying to sort of lay the table in a correct manner for the peace process to take place. But the credibility, naturally, because as I said, Muiba is from Somdal, from Okrun, from the hills of Manipur, and like Napoleon, who was a Corsican, who had to do extra bit to prove himself to be French. Similarly, Muiba has to say that I had a kind of a accord with the government of India, but I was not able to get my home. Then that will not be so. And the entire Naga insurgency or process has gone on for so long that it has gone into the minds of the people. I think the government of India would have done well to have expedited the process. For instance, let me give you an example. 25 years have passed since the ceasefire. I joined the RIMC, the Rashtriya Indian Military College. I was medically unfit to be an army officer. At the age of 11, I had made up my mind to be, an armed forces officer at the age of 11. Now, a person, a Naga child who's 25 years old, forget about the age of 11, he doesn't know whether he is an Indian or he's a Naga. He's confused. This whole, morass of aspects which have surrounded the growth of a Naga child actually has petered down so deeply into the Naga psyche that it's just a question of that there has to be an honorable exit, which I think the government of India is providing to the extent possible. Otherwise, how do you account for the fact that they removed this R.N. Ravi? That means that they atoned for certain wrongs which have been done. And that is why he was removed in the first place. But having said that, I would say that yes, there needs to be a comprehensive policy by which I think an inclusive Northeast, an inclusive Naga society can be included into the greater Indian dream or ethos. After all, you just have to look at the malls of Delhi and places like even where you come from and Mumbai and etc. There are a lot of Naga population there working for economic aspects and livelihood. I mean, they might consider them to be us and them, but the fact of the matter is, when they look for sustenance, economic or otherwise, they look at the Rajdhani which leaves Guwahati for New Delhi. I can't hear.
I think Shraddha,
Yeah.
you're there. Can I just ask a question to Jaideep if there is no one else right now?
So I think there's some problem with the connection.
Okay. Are you able
I can
to
hear you, Dr. Venkat.
Jaideep, are you able to hear me? I'm sorry, there is
Yes,
a problem.
yes. I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry, there is a problem with, for some reason, strangely, my internet connection. So I'm keeping my camera off. But
All
this
right,
is a question.
Yeah, now that I can hear
This
you.
is,
So we can hear you.
Yeah, so I've been listening with interest to some of your observations on the Chinese role, and I want to take you back to this narrative about the Chinese creating mistrust between India and Myanmar using the Northeast militants. So, for example, we've had reports of Northeast militants continuing to find these safe havens in the Sachiang region in Myanmar. If you could just speak a little bit on that aspect, specific aspect, and their Chinese links. What are your observations, Jaideep, on that?
Well, naturally, as I said, I think Myanmar is a very important linchpin for both us and for the Chinese. And economically, of course, you know about their inroads, massive inroads into Myanmar. China is Chinese, and they try to sort of stave off any attempts by India to act these and otherwise. But as far as naturally, and they would like to India and Myanmar to be in a perpetual discord mode, and that is why perhaps I think our ambivalence to an extent also has a role to play here. But the fact of the matter is that they are chaperoning the Indian insurgent groups, to answer your question pointedly, is a clear indication that they want anti-India forces inside Myanmar, just across the border, in Sagaing division, as you said, and in the Chin state, which can act with impunity if and when necessary. They can sort of just turn on the tap and turn off the tap. And now, as I said, after the humiliation of Galwan, I think they have entered the Northeast insurgency game in a decisive way. Although, as I said, there is really no way to sort of prove that in a ironclad way. But the fact of the matter is, A, they have tried to keep India and Myanmar in a discord mode, and we have really kind of played into their hands, because neither are we supporting the military regime, we have abstained, or nor are we actually trying to prop up the democratic forces. So we are in a way in a limbo as far as that is concerned, and I have no, I'm being very frank and candid about this particular ambivalence, and I have written about this in the Indian Express along with Arun Sani recently, that we need to engage Myanmar if anything economically and biosecurity would go. And naturally, there is a very heavy hand of China playing into this, all these aspects. They don't want us to be looking east, going east. And of course, that area which you have referred to as Sagaing and this thing, they have camps. And for some reason or the other, the insurgents have fallen into the hands of the Chinese, the last bastion from which they can, sustain themselves and attack Indian security forces and the population here. And then in the days to come, because they cannot take on us militarily in the eastern sector because of the various forward deployments which we have in this particular sector, unlike what happened in eastern Ladakh, they are trying to sort of open up proxy war in various forms, including, I think, by trying to influence many intellectuals, academicians, press people of the region. Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, we have question. So, by Sakti Paudel, please introduce yourself before asking the question. You need to unmute your device.
Good afternoon, sir. This is A. Shakti Paudal, pursuing Mandarin Chinese from Raksha University. Basically, I'm from Manipur and presently resided in Guwahati. I have a few things to ask you. That is about the NATION IM. The peace talk between the NATION IM and the government of India has taken so long. Yani, the ceasefire was already 25 years back. Now, why do government of India have not come into a common consensus to resolve
You're
this
not
matter?
audible.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, he's
I
audible to
think
me.
there's some problem with the connection.
No, we are able to hear him, Dr. Shraddha. I think Jaideep is able to hear him.
I'm here.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Shall I continue, sir?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes. Now, why the government of India takes so long, many years, to come up to a consensus that the problems of Naga issue be resolved at the earliest? Is it there a problem from the Naga side or from the government of India that this thing be resolved at the best way? And another thing which I want to ask you is that, sir, when we are talking about the NATION IM, the NATION IM was started from 1952. After some years, the fraction has been made, which is known as one of the NATION K. Now, NATION IM has come up with the government side, and the NATION K has gone to the different track that even at any cost, he is not willing to come and make an agreement with the government of India. Do the government take some steps to have a ceasefire with the NATION K? Because NATION K is the one who is one of the fastest growing anti-elements of our country in this present scenario in the Northeast, especially. Because nowadays, NATION K is also collecting a huge amount of recruitment from the other insurgency groups of Manipur like PLA, UNLF, RLA, KNF, KRA. These small insurgency groups recruitments has been made by the NATION K in order to make a huge organization. And apart from that, this NATION K is also making a more link up with the Arakan army and the Chin National Army from the Burma side, which help them in importing of their weapons, and other equipments which will create a problem to our government. Sir, I want to ask you that, don't the government of India made any steps to make these resolutions to the NSNK, being one of the growing
I
anti
understand. Yes.
organization?
Okay. Fine.
Sir, this
So
is my
first of
question.
all, I must correct you that you see there was in 2001 a ceasefire with the NSNK, which was abrogated in 2015, as you know, and that was really because of certain reasons from both the sides. I think you really had some problem talking to Myanmar's Naga formation, despite the fact that old man S.S. Kaplan, God bless his soul, he's no more, is a Hemi-Naga. And he was born in Bangsao Pass in Arunachal Pradesh. But the fact of the matter is, most of the Myanmar and Naga NSNK people were from Myanmar. And I think one of the reasons, and I'm being very candid here, because I think a student, fellow student like me, in you must understand the reality of the situation. I think the government of India at that point of time was wanting to appease the arch enemy of the NSNK, that is the NSNIM. That is why the ceasefire was abrogated. And you remember that soon after the abrogation of the ceasefire, which actually angered the tribal sentiment of old man Kaplang, the attack on the 6 Dogras in Chandel took place on the 15th of June, 2015. So he immediately acted because he was absolutely, and you remember that when the NSC and Undivided was formed, he was the vice president of the formation, right? After the Shillong Accord in 1975. It's not 54, as you said. In 1975, the Shillong Accord broke away, formed the NSCN, Undivided, and S.S. Kaplan was the vice president. In 1980, then these two groups actually became two formations. But the reason for, and we did go into a ceasefire with the NSNK in 2001. But as I said, because we wanted to appease the NSC and IM, we abrogated the ceasefire. And I was a member of the Track to Dialogue with Myanmar just before the abrogation of the ceasefire in 2014. And I asked my counterparts in Myanmar, I said, why are you having a peace deal with the Kaplan group? Because we are having one with them. And in a place of Khamti. And there was a bit of a, almost a embarrassing situation with Jalketi Pannaik and G. Parthasarathy and I taking one side and they the others. And I still remember Ambassador Gautam Mukhopadhyay or Ryan Boyd saying that this is like, okay, right, enough of it, I think that was a great mistake. I think you're right, because NSANK also constitutes the greater, the Naga, ethos, and excluding them. Remember what I said about Sam, Bam, Dand, Bhed division, perhaps was not something which I would have recommended, because NSNK, as you know, also factionalized. Khole Kitobi and the groups like that also came out of NSNK. So we should have actually continued or humored old man Kaplan and continued with the ceasefire. At least the 13 Jawans of the 6 Dogras who killed in Chandel in that surprise ambush led by NSNK would have not actually taken place. And now they are, of course, in the hands of, as I said, anti-India powers. But to talk about why the NSC and IM peace talks have taken so long, it is on both the sides. I think the rigid stance of the NSC and IM is primarily responsible. And I said the 3 important aspects of the flag, the constitution of the Yazabo, and of course, inclusion of Naga-dominated territories in Assam, Arunachal, and primarily Manipur. You see, that have to be sort of factored out. And I have talked about autonomy plus. I said no separate land, state, or an inclusion, because I don't think the Nagas of Nagaland want the hill districts of Manipur. But at the same time, as I kept saying, Mr. Muiba and the leadership of the NSNIM, which are primarily Tangkul, are from Ukhrul of Manipur. Would they go back and tell their own parish that we fought for so many years and yet we were not able to get our homeland? So we have a bit of we in a bit of a bind at this point of time. So I think grant of the autonomy plus, and there is a bill which has not yet been tabled called the Manipur Autonomous Hill District Council Bill 2021, which is expected to be tabled. And if that would be so, with minor modification which doesn't allow or doesn't sort of enter the mighty or the valley sentiments of the people of Manipur, then autonomy plus could be granted, then things would probably move in the right direction. But one of the reasons, and I want to tell you, because you would probably, and you would probably understand it better, is because there is a little bit of arithmetic dissonance in Manipur itself. For instance, the valley houses the majority of the population of Manipur. The hill districts, which are geographically the larger setting, doesn't house half of it. Yet a Maite cannot buy, or a valley person cannot buy a land in the hill districts, but it is possible vice versa. So there is a little bit of an incongruity as far as these things are concerned. So you see, Manipur, that is why I say, is a very, very crucial state, and it has resisted all sorts of interplay by government of India, and very, very genuine, I think, way to solve the problem. But these are inherent, uh, you know, dichotomies which are at play in Manipur and in neighboring Myanmar, at least in the areas which have happened. Yes, there have been instances when things have moved forward, but aspects like the enigma, which I call the framework agreement, which did not have to be gone into. Instead, we could have actually talked about it in public if it was top to be a historic one. But fact of the matter is, it was a riddle wrapped up in a secrecy, in a shrouded in secrecy, and it really gave a lot of this thing. And then there were mistakes made from both the sides. And so there is a sense of arrogance, and the fact that now they were able to remove Pisar and Ravi. They said, no, we will continue with the flag. We want the constitution. We want the land. Land you can understand, because Muiba and the Tangkul leadership is for Manipur. I think some headway has been made as far as the flag is concerned, in the sense that they say, well, every club in Gujarat or in Assam or anywhere else, they have their own flag. As long as it is not treated as a national flag, there should not be any problem. But constitution is a no-no, and so is a separate state. But the fact of the matter is, negotiations always start from the intractable to course of action where things will actually be acceptable by both the parties. After all, things like shared sovereignty also have been discussed. So one can only hope. But realistically speaking, I think this is going for a long haul. And only recently we've had the new interlocutor in place, and much time has been lost. You're quite correct. Quarter of a century has gone just talking, and some people, some observers, not me, are also of the idea that wearing out the belligerent groups is a good idea. But I don't think that is true, because you see the people who have experienced the peace dividends of this 25-year-old ceasefire are used to the luxury, to the taxations which they have been able to get, and you just have to drive from Impal all the way through Kohima and Dimapur to see the luxurious mansions of these NSCNI people, to understand that. So I think a quick solution has to be taken. Excuse me. The distance from Delhi, if you are to look it from the wrong side of the telescope, is one of the factors. I think a correct comprehension of the ground situation is perhaps the most important thing. But I do not doubt the genuineness of New Delhi when I make these statements. I think there is move now, even as we speak, both from the government of India and its agencies, primarily the Assam Rifles, etc., who are trying to lay the ground for equitable solution to come into play.
Sorry, sir. I just have I just arise one question in my mind, that I want to share it with you. Now, at the present scenario, sir, Northeast is one of the most important factors of the India. Now, when we look from the history, the Northeast has been isolated for a long time, and hopefully, after this government came, this government has start pushing up the northeastern part of states in the form of their infrastructure and other facilities. Now, one problem is that, sir, China is also directly looking to the Myanmar, and he is continuously pushing the Myanmar government to initiate the Belt and Road Initiative, in which from the Kunming city of China, which will pass through the Mandalay and Khakpu. When we come on to this Belt Initiative of China, the Burma government has been rejected since from the 2013. But now, in since last one year, I would say that the Burma government has showing some interest to come and make a close hand with the China in this matter. So if Burma government has come a close hand with the China in this road initiative, then that will become a very big threat for the India, that all the important and sensitive parts of the organizations like Satish Dhawan Space Center Sriharikota, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center Thumba, and Kolkata even, which is one of the commercial hub of our eastern part, where our lot of restricted organizations setup has been there established. And if this initiative has come on to the consensus that the Burma is eagerly waiting for that road initiative, then India will really gonna face a great threat. That is of no doubt. But in this case, sir, being an analysis, what do you think we should go ahead with the Burma government and make a good ties in the diplomatic form, or we should push somewhere else in order to escape this road initiative belt which was proposed by the China? What do you think, sir? This is my. Thank you.
Well, BRI is a reality. You cannot do anything about it. And naturally, the Chinese objective is to reach the fresh waters, the blue waters of the Burmese coast or the Myanmarese coast. And as I said, that we need to engage Myanmar. If you can give me your email address, I can send you my writings on this, which have been are all on open source. I think we need to engage whoever is in power in Naypyidaw at this point of time, and not sort of been seen as a perpetual abstainer, whether it is on Ukraine or on Myanmar. But the fact of the matter is, yes, otherwise the entire ground will go to China as it is. But I must caution you here when you say that, in the last year or two, the Myanmarese government or the Myanmarese population are siding with China. I think that's absolutely incorrect. It's actually the other way around. The amount of protests which have gone against Chinese projects inside Myanmar are tremendous, and I think the generals themselves, including, I will not say Senior General Ming Aung Hlaing, but otherwise the junta itself are they have a traditional tie with Beijing, and that's why because of various aspects, including military sustenance from both Russia and China, they are sort of playing along. Even Chi, who was a close ally and a friend, her first port of call after becoming the state councillor was Beijing and not New Delhi. And she even cautioned us against doing the surgical strike, which was carried out after the 6th October attack. What I'm trying to tell you is that we need to engage Myanmar and its population and the polity in a correct manner, which I think not being done at this point of time. The ambivalence has been carried just too far. It's been stretched too far. And naturally, if we were to counter China and the well, about a decade ago, I thought the string of pearls theory was just something, was a bit of a bogey, but it seems to be coming out true. They are actually engendering relations with all our neighborhood, even Bangladesh. I would say so far to say that the only important political party, and I'm making this very forceful statement here, the Awami League has closest Chinese inside it. What is India doing about these aspects? As I said, we are putting all our eggs in one basket. There is Sheikh Hasina, God forbid, like 1975 when her father was assassinated, everything went back to the barrack politics and the Islamists. So we have to be careful. Similarly, about Myanmar, we have to have a clear-cut policy. We have to have a comprehensive neighborhood first policy, which was top on, but I don't see it actually holding ground in the real sense of the word. And one of the important recommendation here I have, and since I'm getting a forum here, I would say that I think the military in Myanmar understands the idiom of the Indian military. One of the aspects which government of India should consider immediately is to send the next envoy to Nepido as a former general or something of the Indian Army. I think a start could be made by that. The number two aspect, I would say that the Myanmar's army, because it is battling not only the People's Defense Force and the National Unity Government in exile somewhere in Chiang Mai in Thailand, and also the civil population, we must understand that we need to somehow, it's not a great piece of advice, Machiavellian it might sound, somehow run with the hares and hunt with the hounds, in the sense like we have to find what are the exact expectations militarily and otherwise which one can provide to Nepido, which Russia and China have not been able to provide. And Russia is busy with the Ukraine crisis, etc. So we must quickly move in. That has not been done, except sending Foreign Secretary Shringla on a whirlwind tour where he was not able to even meet Aung San Suu Kyi. You see, I think a robust diplomacy, which is a combination of both security, economic, and social, has to be immediately engendered. We need to woo the generals, as one very important book actually by a Frenchman points out. But at the same time, somehow our agencies need to sort of reach out to the population, which is bearing the brunt of the Tatmadaw. Now, how that can be done, I am a student of security. I'm not a policy maker, but I can only see that these are the aspects which can be exploited when you look into the power horizon as far as Myanmar is concerned. But as I said, if Myanmar were to disappear, things would have gone in our way, but that's not a reality. Myanmar will continue to exist. The unrest is only mounting. It is both a disadvantage, but at the same time, if you were to play your cards well, it could be an advantage as well. We do not need to be scared of the dragon all the time. They are naturally making growth because that is their national policy. The BRI is something which they have been talking about. We have been privy to that for a long time. Counter narrative, but I'm afraid we don't have a counter narrative at this point in time. So, as a student of security, all I'm trying to say is put your heads together, and I've given you a few recommendations by way of which, for instance, let me give you a quick off-the-sleeve example. Mr. Zoramthanga, the Chief Minister of Mizoram. Now, he both was a former insurgent, and now he is Chief Minister of a peaceful state, having come back to swear by the Constitution of India. Why are we not using him? Why is the government of India in New Delhi not using his good officers, both for the NSA and I, because you are the person who asked me about the Naga talks. Why are we not making a peace mission like the way it was done in the, mid-60s? Bimala Prasad Chaliha, the Chief Minister of Assam, Jayaprakash Narayan, Reverend Michael Scott, peace mission was formed. And at least Chaliha, the Chief Minister of Assam, is a revered person even today in Nagaland. Why isn't Pu Yaramthanga's good offices being used both for Nagaland, for the NSC and IM, and for the Myanmar? He knows his people well. As a matter of fact, there was an anecdotal I saw the other day that, he went to Bangladesh as a chief minister and somebody wanted to show him around. Yes, the ambassador to Bangladesh told me this in Delhi recently, Pinakonjan Chakraborty. It's no big deal. So I'm sharing this with you. He said, Chief Minister, I'll show you around Bangladesh. So Mrs. Zoramthanga smiles and says, I will show you around Bangladesh, when then East Pakistan. So what I'm trying to say is there has to be some out of the box thinking. And I'm just giving you a few. Why are we not using a person who was an insurgent, who knew China, who knew East Pakistan, then East Pakistan, who knows Myanmar, who knows the NSA and Iron Mine well, having been compatriots at one point of time? Maybe we can use his good offices. As a matter of fact, he offered his services. But for some reason, there is something called the NEDA, Northeast Democratic Alliance, which has a BJP chief minister at its head. Why not have Zoramthanga also to be an important constituent of this and see how it plays out? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Sakti, for your questions. We'll go to the chat. So we have Kunal Goswami. He is from the HR team. So his question is, there are existing territorial conflicts within the northeastern state, and how can it be resolved? So this is his question. And sir, also if I can ask, you mentioned that government of India lacks the comprehensive policies when it comes to Northeast. Sir, as someone from the government, what would be your recommendation as to in terms of policies for North, and how can Northeast as a reason, help speed up the process in terms of implementation? Because we cannot deny the fact that we also, as a reason, are at fault. So these two questions, sir.
Dr. Chadha, by the way, at this point of time, I'm not in government. As you excuse me, I am a fellow of West Point. I was in government. I was like Dr. Venkateshwaran in National NSCS and the governor in Assam. But I think, I have been sort of, batting for something called the Northeast Security Council, which is look at traditional security from border management to peace processes in its entirety, a spectrum. A blueprint actually has been provided by me to the government of India. And I don't know, I think some headway has been made because both the NEC, that is Northeast Council, and the donor ministry, they have separate agenda of development, etc. I'm not sure as to how far they have been able to sort of succeed as far as that is concerned. But we and some of us, along with me in the Northeast, are trying to push this through. A Northeast Security Council under the Prime Minister's office, which would have an advisor who would naturally report to the National Security Advisor. As far as the intrastate, the question from the chat box, intrastate boundary, I think a give and take, and you'll be happy to know, and I'm sure the person who asked this question also knows this. There has been, solution as far as the Meghalaya Assam border aspects are concerned, that they keep 6, we keep 6. So I think Nagaland has also understood this, and now with a very dynamic chief minister in Assam, I think things are moving in the right direction. But you must understand, when the states were created out of the mother state Assam, it was done in a big hurry to assuage the sentiments of the Nagas, the Lushais, the Khasis, the Jaityas, etc., and of course the people from the then Northeast Frontier Agency. So that India has well, in some ways, and these are actually all personality driven. I would not say it is institutionalized. That would be very incorrect for me to say so. But you want to have a quick fix solution. So you said, well, there is Naga insurgency. So you give them Indian territory, give them another the separate state. So that sort of assuage the sentiment for a while. By doing so, you do not actually look into the boundary aspects. And there have been commissions like the famous Sundaram Commission after that. But for a matter, this has been sub judice for such a long time that Nagaland doesn't agree to certain areas of the ABC sectors in Merapani and otherwise. So what the present Chief Minister of Assam is doing is the correct thing. He's calling his counterpart and say that, well, let's arrive at a kind of a midpoint, a median line, if I may say, that, 6 of your contested territories are yours and these are mine. And, that led to an amicable situation between Meghalaya and Assam, very recently, just about 2 months ago. And Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram would follow suit. Of course, the firing which the Mizoram police did upon the Assam police was a very unfortunate one. Nowhere in the whole world you see state polices of the same country actually killing each other, and that doesn't speak very well of the enormity of the democracy that we are heir to. But the fact of the matter is, I think some of it is actually a colonial hangover. Some of these are mistakes because haste to sort of arrive at quick solutions. But I think the sagacity and the wisdom and the foresightness with which the present government of Assam is going forward, and I'm not being a spokesman, I've never met the chief minister, but fact of the matter is, I see that these intrastate problems will be solved very soon.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any more questions or queries?
If if there is, I don't know whether Shakti wants to ask another question. He has his hand raised.
No.
If he doesn't, then I mean, Jaideep, if you could just touch upon this, very public narrative that's going around the CAA, for example, and how does that, for example, what do you see are the larger repercussions for the region?
Nothing at all, really. This was a bit of a hype hoopla which was created before the elections, and no names here, but I was consulted by powers that be, and I said, and there were a lot of apprehension that it will lead to the absolutely loss of face of the ruling party in Assam. Just the other thing, it was just the other way around, and. You see, CAA is an emotive issue with only a section of the so-called activist group, if I can term it so. It's neither intellectual, nor the middle class, certainly not the lower middle class. People of Assam, I would say 97, I don't know why I'm arriving at the percent of 97%, would not bother tiff about whether, Hindus from Afghanistan or Pakistan or Bangladesh are allowed to come and settle and get citizenship in Assam or anywhere else in the country. As a matter of fact, they are already there. We just simply legitimizing it, and I think that is something which we must understand, that except the All Assam Students Union agitation in from 1979 to 85, which was really a mass rebellion in that sense. I don't think you have anything else. Where is the CAA protest now in Guwahati? I don't see anything of that sort. After BJP romped home with a huge majority, a huge mandate, which was not expected. I mean, just to pat myself on the back, I was congratulated that you were the 11th person of the 11 people we met who said that this is not going to have any repercussion. Everybody said that, well, BJP is going to lose. I said, no, nobody is going to have a bother about the CAA. It's not a factor at all. And the elections proved it. As simple as that. And today, I follow the news papers and the media closely. I don't think it's a factor at all. It is a factor, as I said, with 3% of the people who want to rabble rounds. Having a few trickle of Hindu population to come into and settle, as they have already done. Large number of Nepalese have come from Nepal. Nepal is a Hindu state, but they have come. They have become MPs and MLAs, etc. A lot of people from Bangladesh, East Pakistan have come. They have been integrated. And Assam is a very interesting flower garden. It is a melting pot. And I don't think, people are worried. except the fact that I must take this chance, this Dr. Venkat has given me this opportunity, that there is a iota, quite a huge pound of Assamese chauvinism or hypocrisy, which I've written about it, and I can say that people like us, Saikyas, Hazarikas, Baruas, we ordain onto ourselves aspects which we talk about in webinars and sitting rooms and conclaves, workshops, etc., about illegal ingress from Bangladesh, from these, that, the other. But when it comes to actually the nitty-gritties, like constructing a house or getting your a plumbing or anything else done, we go for the first person we choose is a illegal migrant from Bangladesh, because he charges 10 rupees, whereas an Assamese would charge 25 rupees. The hypocrisy is very apparent here. I've written about it in 2003 in my book Terror or Sport Years. And if this continues, why did Assam actually break away from? Why did Nagaland and Meghalaya and Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh broke? Because of the way we treated these people. Who ordained that a Prafulla Mahanta or a Bhrigu Pukon or a Biraj Sharma, all upper caste or Assamese, should be signatories to the Assam Accord in 1985 in Rajiv Gandhi's house? Why were the tribals who were a part and parcel of the same movement not not incorporated? That is why they moved away, and they're still moving away. The Boros, they have got their Boro territorial autonomous district at this point of time, but they're not very happy with mainstream Assamese. So the CAA is just another sort of host that has been created by a few people, which there are people who have nothing else to do, they rebel rouse. But the fact of the matter is, again, when you read the fine print, sitting in Gandhinagar or in New Delhi or Mumbai, you seem to think that there is a lot to it. But the reality of the ground is exactly what I said, and it has been proven in the hustings. So there you are.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, Kritika, go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Kritika from Masters of International Relations, School of International Cooperation, Security and Strategic Languages, RRU. I wanted to ask that Northeast, not only the insurgency, there is also a problem of small arm proliferation. And many a times there has been speculation that it has connections with Chinese, that they are illegally they are funding it, that and these insurgents have Chinese arms. So can we say that all these is a failure of the governments to come together and talk about and take a coordinated effort in the region to tackle this problem?
Well, naturally, it is a government failure. If partisans or small arms enter the Northeast through either the land route, or if you remember the famous hall of 2nd of July 2004 in Chittagong, the main consignees of which were Paresh Barua and Anthony Shimre. And that's why they wanted man in Bangladesh. You see, you must also understand the background, Kritika. You see, in its quest to become a leaner, thinner, meaner army, the PLA of China are sort of, farming away its small arms. They don't require, I would say, non-sophisticated weapons like AK-47 and things like that any longer. So they find a ready, buyer or a supply chain as far as the Indian insurgents of Northeast are concerned. And I must say here, nobody has asked me this question. 50% of the arms go to Maoist. Recently, there was a left-wing extremist caught in Assam, in Silchar, Arup Kumar Bhattacharjee, who is trying to construct a red corridor all the way from Dandakaranya and central India through the northeast and through the killing field of Myanmar, as I said, or to China. That's a real danger also. The only reason it is not succeeding, if somebody asks me this question, I can go into various reasons. At one point of time, there was a lot of concern that LWE has entered. But as for the arms is concerned, which is your main question, You see, the PLA, and that is where I am also a little confused, because there is no official proof that Beijing is allowing that. The only way I actually was able to do is when I interrogated a person called Rohit Devi, the principal staff officer to Paresh Barua, way back in 2000, when I was advising security here. Now he talked about something called the Black House. I did not know what. I kept asking, what is the Black House? There's only my friend Bertil Littner, later on when he came to my house, this very house, he said, well, in Mandarin it simply means Hai Hui, which means the grey market, Black House. You know, so Lohit Deori did not know what it meant, but he said there were uniformed Chinese officials who were giving us the arms, which we were buying. And he actually told me about this very lesser known two operations of the Alpha, Operation Lachit and Chilarai, basically a gun conducting operation. So it is a possibility, and my conversation with Bertil sort of arrived at the fact that there were certain retired generals of the PLA who were being tasked to get rid of these small arms, which was not required by the PLA any longer. So one of the conduit is, of course, the land route, which enters even through Moreh or through various entry points in Myanmar. The Assam Rifles have called in Mizoram itself. The Assam Rifles have done a wonderful job by getting hold of these. The other one, which is the one which was done in Chittagong, they come through the barges on the Iravati all the way to Yunnan to, say, Port Sightway. When trawlers take them to Chittagong, and then they make the way through the land routes to Sherpur in West Bangladesh, cross over to the West Garo Hills in Meghalaya. From there, they make the way to Goalpara in Assam, and then 50% of the armaments go to the Maoists, and 50% go to the rest of the Indian insurgent groups. It's very interesting here. I must also tell you that the Kachin Independent Army, for instance, helped in transferring the arms. Now, no payment in by way of cash is given. So what they do is, suppose there are, I'm just giving you a hypothetical example, 10 AK-47s are got. So helping them transfer the KIA or the Kachin Indian Army would keep 3 of them. So that is the way the payment is made. But the fact of the matter is, the Chinese have been paid for it at throwaway prices. And that is how the arms are actually coming inside the Northeast and also making the way into central India. The government, of course, is worried about this, and that is why I am actually pleading for a dedicated Northeast Security Council which will look into the border management aspect, which for some reason or other, without naming names, the present agencies have not been able to. I think barring the Assam Rifles, some of the other agencies have not been able to guard the border particularly well, and it's possible that connivance also cannot be ruled out, because otherwise, why there is so much of arms and drugs and other illegal stuff making the way into the Northeast? I think that has to be factored in, and government of India must take a correct policy call on this particular aspect. Thank you, Kritika.
So should we end now, or okay? Thank you, sir, for a very interesting session, and also very patiently taking all our questions and queries. Again, on behalf of school and the university, I would extend my gratitude to you. I would also like to thank all the audience for making it for being for actively taking part in it, and then making the session all the more interesting. I would also like to extend my thanks to General Asit Mistry, Dr. Gaur, Dr. Dolly Mishra, Professor Shane, and also Director Sir and my colleagues at the school. I would also like to thank my students and the admin staff for the support. So we will continue with the Labat session, lecture series, the time and date of which will be intimated soon. So thank you all of you once again, and hope to see you soon. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Shraddha, may I make an announcement here, please?
Sure, sir.
I'm
Sure,
so
sir.
extremely sorry. First of all, I'm extremely privileged that you gave me the opportunity primarily Dr. Venkateshwaran, friend of long years, who gave me this opportunity. I had prepared a very dedicated presentation, and for some reason, technical or otherwise, I'm sure the Chinese don't have a hand in it. But fact of the matter is, I am assuring anybody who wants to take this presentation, I'd be very happy to share it with him or her through the internet. Or I can give it to Dr. Venkateshwaran and he can sort of pass it on to him. I will do it in the course of the next 24 hours. I'm extremely sorry. There were very rare photographs, and of course, you've heard me speaking, but then you could relate the photographs and some of the statistics, etc., to the presentation, which I will share with Dr. Venkateshwaran as soon as I can. I'm extremely sorry for the technical pop-up, but I can assure you it's really, really not an intended one, and I'm sorry about that. And I thank you once again, Dr. Shraddha, for having given me this wonderful opportunity. And I hope I did not, I was able to answer some of the questions. Very, very intelligent questions. Thank you once again.
Jaideep, you know, just adding to the conspiracy sort of theory you referred to, my computer conked off in between. So and everyone else in the building was fine except mine. So we had to take help from the IT. So
Well, we don't know these days, you know. Well, I've had serious problems with.
We're all victims of technology. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's in fact, this morning I was running it through Kaul Sanjay, who's been a great. He's a technical savvy man, and I'm not. So everything was running well, and suddenly it went blank, you know. But
yeah.
Nonetheless, this next practice best thing was to send. Thank you for send you the PowerPoint presentation.
I think there were some very interesting observations you made through the course of your lecture, and it is our loss that we couldn't see your PowerPoint. And moving forward, maybe we could have another session at some point of time of your convenience, where
Certainly.
yeah, and please do feel free to share that, so I can share it with the larger audience also.
Please, I'll do that.
I think that will also generate some questions and queries. And
no, I mean, it was basically exactly what I said, except I might have missed a point here or two because I was speaking extempore. But there were photographs, etc., which would make sense to some of your students because they could relate to what I was talking about. And there were maps primarily which I had constructed for you, etc. But I'm going to send it to you, and please feel free to, you know, these are all open source stuff, really. And while not ruling out the conspiracy theory, one can only blame it on bad luck at this point of time. But nonetheless, I think I had a very great morning, and I thank you once again. I look forward to sort of, you know, interacting with RRU, you, Dr. Shraddha, and others once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jaideep. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shraddha. Great job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.